So once we're done with that, we're going to take a deeper look at competitors. So I really like this export that comes from Outranking that has a lot of data on the top 10 competitors. So what I like to do is just kind of export some of it into a Google Sheet here and start to look at how these websites are optimizing. So what this is doing here, it's showing us for email marketing best practices, who's using that exact phrase and some of the key elements of the page. And what's interesting about this result, it's heavily exact match in all the key tags. Really, when you look at the top 6 or 7 or so, we don't get any partial or kind of non-exact matches till we get to the bottom of the first page. So this example, it's pretty kind of straightforward on what we need to do. We're going to have to be pretty heavily optimized towards that phrase to kind of position ourselves with the top 5 here. If you see that a lot of non-exact and partial are in the top 5, what's interesting about that, that might be an opportunity where if you do use more exact phrasing, other websites might be under-optimized and that might set you apart, or it might make sense that there might be more nuance to it. So it's just a great way to start thinking through how you're going to start writing these tags. And this data, we typically pull from this SERP analysis report, and we're going to show you this in a little more detail. But we'll do an export here, which will kind of pull in all that data that I'm looking at in the spreadsheet here. So the other thing we do when we're doing a competitor analysis is we actually start looking at some of these key metrics for each page as well. I really like to see content length. So one of the big takeaways here is the top 5 or 6 are very long form. And when you get to the bottom of the first page and into page 2, you're getting more short form articles. So this is a great example of we really need to have an in-depth article here if we want to have a chance at kind of breaking into the top 5. And you can see the same thing with the outranking grade that I'm pulling in. The top 5 has very high grades, where when you start getting to the bottom of the first page, you start to see those grades kind of drop off. What I always like to look at as well is sometimes you might see that grades are low overall, and that just means there's an opportunity there to kind of set yourself apart by just following some best practices. I like to pull in link data as well. This gets less into optimization, but more on your promotion plan. This is a pretty competitive keyword, so you're going to see the top 5 results here have a heavy amount of backlinks, where when you start getting to the bottom of the first page, you can see that drop off there. So not only do we need to optimize the post well and create something that's in depth, you're going to want to incorporate some type of backlink strategy here to promote the article in this particular example. So this data from Outranking really lets you do a kind of deep analysis to really understand what's happening before we actually start writing and creating our own piece of content. So with all that data, we're finally able now to start determining what type of content are we going to create, what type of word count do we need to shoot for, and what type of grade or outranking score do we want to shoot for as well.